right, with our new and improved sound effects, thanks to Josh Engelman, we are live Tuesday, 2:30 PGA DFS strategy show. Myself, Ben Rasa, here with FantasyGolfMan, Tim Frank. This is going to be bad, Tim. This is just, oh boy, we got the 3M Open, so a little different than what we saw last week at Memorial. But first things first, this is in your backyard, is it not?
This is Tpc Twin Cities, my home state of Minnesota. I'm not a Minnesota. Like I said to somebody on Twitter, I'm not a Minnesotan. I'm a Floridian, but I live here in Minnesota. But yeah, okay. Right in my backyard. Awful, terrible fields. I mean, this is just really doesn't get any better than this for me. Kind of like a home game with a bad field. It's perfect.
Right in your wheelhouse. First things first, as I always say, Superdraft sponsoring the show. We talk a lot about them on the Wednesday night show, but if you guys haven't signed up, go ahead and do that. Multiplier mode, no salary constraints. You're going to have that incentivized to pick some of those lesser known guys. You get that bonus via the multiplier. Different form. Sign up, Awesemo 10 promo code. You get $10 free on your deposit, $20 free on a deposit of $100 or more. Tomorrow night, me and Jason Roslin will be building a little super draft lineup, so come check that out. Before we dive in, I told you before the show, I was in Saratoga. Even though the track was closed, I still went up, and I was sweating out the golf. It's some big things working going into Sunday, and I crumbled because of Danny Willett. What did you make of it? Did you like seeing, U.S. Open conditions with the Memorial? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't watch a lot, but generally from like a viewing standpoint, and I've said this before, I like that from a viewing standpoint. I think it's much more intriguing style of golf than just watching everyone go out and make birdies on every hole. And there's really no chance of a blow up. Like a bad hole is just if you don't birdie a birdie hole, like a par 5. So from viewing, yeah, I like that. I like the tough setup. I like the lots of bogeys, opportunities to make huge numbers. I just think it's tougher from a DFS standpoint. I think a birdie fest is easier to project where there's not a lot of carnage. I think the carnage creates a lot of variance, and we saw that with a lot of great players missing the cut and playing poorly. So from a DFS standpoint, I like an easier course, but from a viewing standpoint, I like the U.S. Open style. I like to see the guys struggle in a tough test of golf.
I mean, I totally agree. I much prefer it, but for me, I think it's better for DFS as well. I'm much better, I think, at projecting in a weird way. When placement points make up a larger percentage of a guy's total score, I think that suits what I do best. Sometimes when we get in these birdie fests, streaks, bonuses, just pure scoring outweighs where a guy finishes unless we get to the very top. And I don't know. I guess I'm more conservative when I build, so I'm more apt to give me 5 over par. It helps my guys a little more than when, we're going to talk about with the 3M. This is all about attacking the pins, and you've got to score here.
Well, yeah, at a tough course like Memorial, tough conditions, you want to play great players like Henrik Norlander, guys like that are going to be able to perform in the toughest fields on the toughest courses, for sure. I'm with you.
Oh boy, I'm just like I keep scanning the field to think like what do we have here? And like I said, I'll start. We'll move on. Anything else with the Memorial? I don't have much to say. It was a good week. Could have been great. Rom really helped me, obviously. But on to the next one. We're going to see that more and more, just not this week.
Yeah, I'm glad to be done with that tournament. That was not kind to me. I said Webb by 1,000 on Twitter, and then it just was like maybe the worst tournament he's had in like 3 years. So
he had some issue. I was certain he was going to sneak into the cut like Xander does every single week, but he did not. Let's look real quick at Superdraft. I'm just going to rattle off a couple prices there, and then we'll talk about the course. So no surprise, DJ and Fleetwood are that 1X, and we got guys like Brooks, Bubba, the big names. And I mean, we can speak generally about this. I assume you think a tournament like this is more, do I say wide open? I mean, you've got the big names, and we're going to dive into them, but what do you make it for, just from quickly, like in a betting aspect. Do you like an event like this where the win equity is a little more up in the air?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is especially wide open because there's question marks, and even if it's one bad event, and we'll get to DJ in a minute, there's question marks with the guys at the top. It's not like Bryson at the Rocket Mortgage where it was like he was the class of the field and he was playing great, and it was like, man, it's like everything just lines up. There's only a couple elite players. There's question marks around all of them. So yeah, I think it's wide open. This could be, and we haven't seen it yet this year because we've had really elite field after elite field. Maybe this is the week where we see just a complete no-name leaderboard with some wild names up there.
I know. I was thinking about that. So we've had 6 tournaments. We got, God, I really should have just wrote this down. But Berger, Webb, Morikawa, DJ, Rahm, and Bryson. So yeah, like that's as legit as it gets. You could have come up with all of them. Honestly, no one from really off the radar. I have a feeling that may change this week. So yeah, we're going to do that. I will say for Superdraft, it's going to open up your ability to really take some big multipliers. I wouldn't be stunned to see someone in that like 1.3, 1.4x actually win the tournament. And clearly they're going to be a requirement. But obviously where we start every week, we do 2 things. One, chat, we start with you guys. If you can hit the like button, pump up those views. We appreciate it. But we go to Twin Cities, TPC Twin Cities, which we don't have a lot of information on. It was, I think, just 1 year. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's all I see.
Yeah, just last year.
Just last year, Tim. I don't remember, and take it away, but I don't remember there being that much water. I was stunned when I looked over the course. I don't know how much is in play, but this has got some Florida roots for you as well. A lot of water on this track.
Yeah, a little bit of crossover. Yeah, a lot of water on a lot of the holes, but then it played pretty easy. You know, we saw Wolf at 21 under, Bryson at 20. So it really didn't play difficult. I think, you know, it's a 7,150 yard par 71 bentgrass greens. It seems like a course that with the water can punish errant shots, but yet if you can avoid the water, it plays as a fairly easy course. And again, this is 1 year of sample. So we don't want to get like too carried away with what happened last year and really trying to just go all in on examining that, because it's 1 year. It theoretically could play completely different. And we'd like to see multiple years before we really try and make any huge, observations on what we saw. But it does seem like a course where, yeah, the wild shots will be punished by the water. But if you can avoid that, it's pretty much, a birdie hole. It's like the John Deere Classic with water.
Wow. That is a selling point if I've ever heard one. That's what it seems. I mean, even just listening very briefly to Brooks and DJ talk today, they both said the same thing. Like, if you drive it well, you're going to be able to score. If you don't, you're going to be in big trouble. The rough can be punishing. Obviously, if you go in the water, that's a problem. But if you don't, you're going to be able to attack these pins. No doubt about it. You're going to have to score. This isn't going to be like last week. This is back now to Rocket Mortgage, just anarchy. And I think I'm going to have to, I in particular, I'm really going to have to try to adjust how I build. Now, the field being so different helps that. But with the course, I mean, yeah, it's bent grass, par 71. I don't see anything unique. Like, is there anything about this course that you see as unique? To me, it's just a pretty standard course with a little extra water.
Yeah, not at all. And I try not to get carried away unless there's some features of the course that really set it apart, like a Harbor Town or like a Torrey Pines. It's incredibly long. So I try not to like look for things that aren't really there. If it's obvious that this course is different, it'll be obvious to everyone. But I don't try and really nitpick to find anything. So no, we're a pretty standard course for me.
Yep, I'm with you. So not like I said, not much to say. You need to strike it well, and you're gonna have to make some putts. But that's true pretty much everywhere. Just in a scoring fest, these will be birdie putts, not 6-footers for par like we saw last week, or in Danny Willett's triple bogey pars. But oh boy. All right, here we go. I've delayed it as long as I can, a whole 10 minutes. We got DJ. Well, at least we've heard of these guys up top. We've got DJ. We've got Brooks, Finau, Fleetwood, who hasn't played in months, and Paul Casey. Take it away. I mean, obviously DJ is the overwhelming favorite, or is he just the clear favorite?
I mean, I would say fairly overwhelming, 10-1. Here's how I feel about DJ. It scares me to pay all the way up 11-5 for a guy that was so bad last week, like incredibly terrible. But he came off a win the previous start. I think if you look at projection systems and models, they're going to love him this week because they're not going to overreact to 280s at the Memorial. And that's why computers are smarter than me. But as a person, it's really hard for me to get that out of my mind, that how bad he was last week. So, I mean, if I had to go all the way up, I'd definitely take DJ over the other four guys. Brooks has not been good. I've seen some things on Twitter, him still talking about his knee not being 100%, which scares me. And the way he plays, honestly, has scared me. Finau was good last week. The ball striking was better, but on the whole, it was a well-rounded event for him last week. Not off the charts ball striking, but on the whole, since the restart, his ball striking just hasn't been that good. And he seems like a guy, right? It's like an 8K guy in a really strong field. That seems to be his wheelhouse. Like, play Finau cheap at really strong fields at majors, and that's where you're getting good performances. I don't remember a lot of paying 11K for Finau in a weak field and really getting paid off. Do you?
Puerto Rico, I guess.
Yeah.
No, not really. I mean, so the thing that you kind of just said in a different way, I guess, is that Brooks and DJ, that's where they are, regardless of the field, maybe give or take a little bit, but they're going to be towards the top. Tony Finau is just filling in for the lack of depth that we have. He's not 11K at the Memorial, obviously. He's not 11K at a major. Now, Finau is playing pretty well. I know he didn't get it done on Sunday, but he looked all right. He putted well, striking it well. So I get it from that aspect. He's clearly not as good as these guys. And then you've got right below him Fleetwood, who obviously, our premium Slack chat's been discussing this at length. I don't think there's really much to say about him. We don't know. I mean, how do you take form from a guy who hasn't played in months?
Yeah. I mean, you're literally guessing with Fleetwood. I wouldn't be opposed to playing him, but I mean, you just haven't seen him, and it's really hard to pull the trigger on him. I like him. I would rather take the shot with him and the $700 savings over Brooks, who I think there's some serious red flags with Brooks, especially at that price. But yeah, you're really just hoping if you're playing Fleetwood, and at 10-5, I want to be a little more. I would want a little more than just kind of praying that he's sharp.
You can make a case really for anything here. DJ, probably overall the best player, and he is the favorite. Brooks, as Ryan just put it out in chat, he's going to be the lowest owned of the five. There's no doubt in my mind. People are scared for good reason. You have Fleetwood, who we don't know, and then the last guy is Casey, who honestly, I guess I'll say pound for pound, for lack of a better term, I feel pretty good about him. Now, obviously, like most, if you saw what he did last week, he missed the cut in ridiculous fashion. He hit it over the water hazard the wrong way. Then he dunked it in the water hazard twice, missed on the number. But I don't really worry about him long term. I think he's just going to be fine, and he'll be more than capped to handle this course.
It's taken me a long time to get there, but Casey is my favorite play at the top.
There we go. Okay.
And I actually, to me, the way that he missed the cut, I don't want to say it was a positive. He lost 4.7 strokes around the green, just around the green in round 2 last week. He played great in the first round. He had that one hole that was just, an ejection of all ejections, and it was all around the green. And then after that, and aside from that hole, he played fine. So actually, the way he missed the cut, it was more encouraging because he played well outside of one hole.
Yes.
And the same thing at the Travelers, he struck it great and was T32. I think that miscut, him burning a lot of people last week, it will probably reduce some of the ownership. But I was encouraged. He played 36 holes, 35 of them he played great. One was awful. So that doesn't, I don't care about that at all. And he's my favorite play at the top, and I hope people are off of him because of what he did on that one hole last week.
Yeah, you're right. To me, like that's as ridiculous as it was just an outlier. Like he should not have missed that cut, and I'd rather have that than seeing a guy just struggling all day. Not that I worry about DJ, but DJ just was awful all the time across the board. He needs to get his off the tee right. That's actually the most concerned I've been with his driving in some time. But yeah, I think that Casey is fine. The question, last thing, and then we can move on, is how do you, I'll ask it two ways. What do you think you're going to do? And then what do you think the public is going to do in terms of starting? Do you think people try to pick DJ and one of these guys? Do you think they just take DJ and bump down, mix and match like Casey Fleetwood combos? How do you think they go about the top?
I think just one from the top, because there's just not, I mean, it gets really bad below like 7,500. There's not a lot of guys to feel comfortable with. There's guys that I feel comfortable with, but I'm a sicko.
I can't wait to hear that.
Not that guy. There's not that guy at like 6,800 that you just feel great about, or multiple guys if you're going to be jamming in two from the top. So I think you're going to see like one of these guys and then somebody from like, 90, 85 to 95, and then try and play like a little balanced after they go DJ or Brooks or whoever they start with.
I tend to agree. I do think, and maybe I'm on an island here, I think that more people are going to try to jam DJ and Casey together than we may see. Chat, let me know though. A lot of people are saying, and I want to hear about this, start maybe with none of them and start in the 9. So we'll go there right now. We've got Bubba, Wolf, Glover, Henley, and Harris English. Wow. I like Bubba. I'll get that out there right now. He struck it incredibly well last week. He is playing 7 straight, which is kind of ridiculous.
Missed a lot of cuts, though. So
missed a lot of cuts in there. I like the ball striking. I think this could be a Bubba course long-term. And there's just not that much. I mean, talk to me about this range. What do you see with these 5 players?
Yeah, and I think just from a pricing standpoint, this is where it gets weird. Like you said, DJ and Brooks, they're going to be that expensive everywhere. They're the best players in the field. And then the cheap guys, the guys at like 7,500 and below, like they're kind of that same price in strong fields, weak fields. But here's where you start to get guys like Glover, like Wolf, like Henley that just seem way overpriced. I'm with you. I love Bubba this week at 9,900. Oh, yeah. The ball striking was phenomenal last week. Gained 10.7 off the tee and on approach. And, he hasn't been good. The results haven't been good. 3 missed cuts, a 52nd, a 7th. But in all but one of those, the ball striking was good. So, I mean, he's been kind of consistent with the ball striking throughout this year, even though the results haven't really been there. But he was great last week. I'm with you. I think this is a good setup for him. And I just think if he's playing well, he just has so much more win equity than a lot of these other guys up here. I mean, Wolf seems overpriced. Glover's been playing great, but I mean, he hasn't won in 10 years. And I'll just take his A game and the win equity that comes with that if he's playing well over maybe some of the consistency you get with some of these other guys. But I just don't think that the win equity is there for 9,400, 9,500, some of these other guys. So I'm with you. He struck it great last week. And the scoring potential that he brings, even if he doesn't finish in the top 5, I think is also important.
Yeah, he's given you nothing with the putter pretty much since the restart. So if we get any positive putting, that's going to be a bonus. And he should be able to attack the scores off the tee. I will say that Russell Henley is striping it as well. I don't know how you can really dispute that. He hasn't given you much with the putter. He's more of a Bermuda guy than a bent, but that can change. And I mean, his irons are, I would have to say, the best in the short sample size of anybody post break. He's just gained 8 at Travelers and 6 at Workday. Phenomenal right now.
But yeah, I mean, I think it will go all the way down to AK. To me, it's Casey and Bubba. And I mean, Henley was so good. I was all in on him at Workday. He just kind of stumbled out of the gate, and that first 9 holes just kind of did him in. But he played great. He gained 8.9 with the ball striking. He ended up finishing T7 there. Travelers, he gained 10 with the ball striking and finished T32. I mean, you're not going to find back-to-back ball striking rounds like that. That is like elite for 2 events in a row. Just absolutely striped the ball. 9,200 is expensive, but coming into this week, I was just in love with them because those kind of numbers, those are numbers that you're not going to see very often. Gaining 19 strokes over 2 events. So yeah, I have him behind Bubba just because I think Bubba wins this event.
Oh my God, we're dead. Because you may see Bubba in the tweet of mine tomorrow night as the winner as well. 28-1.
I mean, yeah, the way he struck it last week, I like it.
The chances of one of us ever getting an outright right is minimal. The chances that we get the same guy right would be, Chad, if we do that, we're breaking new ground on this show.
Well, I mean, I'll say I like Bubba as a bet at 28-1, but I mean, I only go deep, like 150 to 1 plus.
We haven't got to Russell Knox yet.
That way, when you never, ever win a bet, you just point to that. You're like, well, I mean, it's like 150. I only have to win one every like 3 years. So like, I don't.
We're coming up on it's past due. I hear that. And good point from chat. Price shop. Depending on what site you play, Yahoo, Henley's $24. Burns is the min. Like, that's ridiculous. Obviously, you can build ridiculous lineups with that. So 28-1. Hey, I hit Rom last week. I've been doing all right. Betting has not been the problem. So anything on Harris English before we move on? I'm pretty indifferent to the play. Prefer Bubba, prefer Henley.
Yeah, no Harris English.
Okay, good. Let's just flat out reject him. So this is where I think the chalk is going to come from as we work down to guys like EVR, your boy, and I really do mean that, Doc Redman, your boy, and I really do mean that, Henrik Norlander, Sam Burns, and the gang. These are we're getting up there in the multipliers over on Superdraft, but still pretty close to the top. And, obviously on DraftKings, these are mid-8. They're going to be your second, maybe your third in balance builds. Do you think these guys are going to be popular, and do you think it's good chalk?
I think they're popular, and I think it's just awful chalk, to be honest with you. I mean, EVR, huge price jump from where we've seen him, although he struck it great last week. What was he, second in approach? What I got? 5th tee to green. Yeah, second in approach. And we've seen him contend in strong fields at majors, at WGCs. I guess if I had to go in this range, I wouldn't mind him just because I feel like the quality of player is a lot better than some of these other dudes here. But the price is steep. Redman, I don't know. The ball striking has slowed down. T21 at the Rocket Mortgage got off to a great start there. Last 3 rounds wasn't good. Missed the cut last week. Decent ball striking. Not for me. I guess if I had to go.
I don't know if anyone can hear us, but if they can you hear me, chat? Let me know. I don't know what we've done. I think we're good now. Don't worry. We got professionals behind the glass. Tim was just going on such a rant with Doc Redman. We had to mute the sound.
Just so that's melted really down all the computer hardware.
Yeah, we're good. Basically, to sum it up, you were saying you don't really like anyone here, maybe Sam Burns.
Yeah, maybe Sam Burns, but that's like a personal thing of me just liking him long-term and playing a ton of them. But yeah, this is not an area I'm going to be going in for like core plays.
So, all right. I hadn't been on Doc Redman. I don't mind it as much here just because I think this is a very easy course. He's the type of guy we've seen can score with the best of them. EVR is the opposite of that. He's a good player, but I kind of like him in harder, grinded out conditions rather than this. Don't mind Burns. Henrik Norlander has been good for people, and some people have jumped on and they stayed on, and that's great. He gained 8.5 strokes putting last week at Memorial. I would never, if he beats me, he beats me. I'm so far away from him at this price. I know you've liked him, but you're not there for this, are you?
No, awful play this week. Just so overpriced. Did it all with the putter last week. And then at the workday, the putter was good again, which really hasn't been his MO. If he would have putted the way he did at Memorial, if he would have putted that putting performance at the Rocket Mortgage, he would have won by like 15 shots. I mean, at Rocket Mortgage, he led the field in ball strike and couldn't putt. And then last week, he couldn't strike the ball worth a shit, and he putted the lights out. I mean, he would have shot like 35 under at Rocket Mortgage if you put those two together. I
don't know what to make. He was making saves like there was no tomorrow. He'd be listen, and he's a decent player. I'm just not sure you're going to ever see a more inflated combo of ownership and price on Henrik Norlander than you will here. So for me, there's other options. Talk to me specifically, one guy, as we work down a little. What do you make of Luke List? I don't want to say it's a resurgence, but he was good last week.
He was good last week. But yeah, he's been inconsistent. One on the Korn Ferry Tour. We have miscuts mixed in. I don't mind him at 8,400, but I don't know. I think he's a pass for me.
Okay.
I mean, good last week, but he hasn't really been very consistent back. I guess maybe looking at consistency is a leak in mine. Maybe we just need to be looking at like top end performance, which he seems to have now. But kind of hit or miss for me. This is just not a range for me.
It's that's something that you just touched on, though, that I do think is worth just discussing a little bit. Not every guy that I evaluate, do I evaluate on like, do I think he's going to make the weekend, or do I think, if I get it right, even a small amount of the time, how right can I get it? And to me, List is in that bucket where there are scenarios where I think you get it right and you get paid off in a huge way, especially because he's nestled right next to chalk potentially of a lot of guys. So you're 1v1ing there. I don't love the play either, though. I just think that's worth exploring on high upside teams. Like a Millie Maker play, I get it for him. Brendan Todd is gone. He withdrew. You got Ryan Moore, Patrick Rogers, Brian Harman, and Max Homa to round out the eights. More experienced players. Do you have interest there on any of these dudes?
No, not really. I mean, this seems like it could be. Ryan Moore got it turned around a little bit last week. This seems kind of like the courses that he excels at. Birdie Fest, easy courses, weak fields, John Deere, Shriners, Wyndham. All the places he plays well are Birdie Fest with terrible fields. I guess I wouldn't mind him in 8,100, being that he did get it turned around a little bit last week. But again, nothing I'm targeting.
I don't mind that either. And I honestly don't mind Max Homa, who has been close. I know he's been burning. I see your face. Go ahead, take it.
I just don't get it with Homa, and people keep wanting to play him, and I've played him too, but he's been missing the cuts. But if you look at the numbers behind those missed cuts, they're not that good. It's not like, whoa, he's striping it and just can't putt, or is the around the green. It's like, he's just not doing much, and he's still 8K. It's not like he's cheap.
I think for me, I'm kind of banking that the bottom has fallen out on his ownership, that this was it. To push back on that a little, yes, the numbers haven't been great, but the missed cuts haven't been egregious either. Like, he's been there on Friday with chances to slide in, and he just hasn't. He needs to be a little better. He hasn't gained with the putter at all since the return. Not saying he will here, but it can't be much worse. He's gained tee to green in 4 of 5. I think he's all right at 8K in a field like this, because truly I mean, how many players are better than him in this field? It's not that many, 20, 30 at most.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't mind it. I would feel more comfortable with him if it was like just lights out ball striking and you could just pinpoint like, dude just can't make a putt. It's been, he's been slightly positive. But I don't know. I don't think he's that cheap. And I don't know if the ownership's bottomed out quite yet. Maybe it's just the people I'm talking to.
Yeah. I mean,
in my DMs,
that's one of the many reasons, and a perfect time to say it, that you should get behind the paywall and get Awesemo Plus. The ownership projections are incredibly useful because as much as we want, we're evaluating these plays. And I know I can speak for you here. Like if, for example, if Homo was 1%, yeah, we'd be using him. If he was 25%, I clearly wouldn't be over the field. And there's no better time to get in because now that sports are back, baseball, basketball, we're giving you the first month of Awesemo Plus half off with the promo code RESTART. So $45 for a month of Awesemo's leading DFS projection, tools, and content for the NBA, for baseball, for golf, and obviously everything else that we have. Valid through August 3rd, but come on in. This is a great time to check out everything. You get half off. You can't beat that. So we can see where you do it just for Max Homa's ownership, if nothing else. All right. I mean, you would think that was bad at 8K, but it gets Sepp Straka leads off these sevens at 7,900. Chris Kirk, RCB, Will Gordon is back. Brandon Grace, I've seen a lot of chatter about. Talk to me about the upper sevens. Dead range, interest, what say you?
Yeah, still kind of a dead range for me. I think guys like Vegas or RCB are just kind of like the long-term form guys. Nothing great in their numbers recently or their play recently. I just think long-term a lot better play than kind of some of these guys in the upper 7 range. I'd feel comfortable with them. Stallings at 7,600 has kind of been the consistent guy in this range. Positive. I know that seems just
you're not wrong, but man,
an egregious thing to say when like Scott Stallings is like, yeah, let's go to him for safety. But positive ball striking in all 4 events. He's made all 4 cuts he's played in, and it's been good. He's averaged almost 3 strokes with off the tee and on approach. Over those 4 events, he's been really good. Okay, I just said he's been really good. He's been pretty good, and the consistency has been there. And you will not find that with anybody in this range or even cheaper. Is the upside there? I don't know. He gets hot from time to time. He has wins scattered throughout his long and terrible career. But just from a numbers standpoint, from a ball striking standpoint, since the restart, I mean, he's been good. He's actually been better than probably anybody in this range. I don't know if he has the upside. He's not a actually thrilling play, but the numbers did stick out to me at 7,600.
Listen, I see what you're getting at there. So one guy that I want to keep an eye on is RCB. I didn't think he was going to be even remotely popular. He's been terrible. I think he's the biggest name in this range. And if he's truly very lightly owned, I may take a flyer. If he garners any interest, I probably will not. Scott Stallings checks out as chat. I don't even have to say these things because chat, you people are sharp. Brandon Grace is the min on FanDuel. I don't know what the deal is with that. That's just stupid. He'll probably still get cut somehow because he is Brandon Grace, but you got to at least consider that over there. Not as sold, 7,500. And over on Superdraft, nothing really stands out in terms of his multiplier. I think it's pretty fair for what we're doing. 1.3. Not the best, not the worst. I'm going to bump down actually, what about Noren? You're a Noren truther, 7,500, yay or nay?
I don't think I'm going to get there. I don't know if it's a mental thing. I just feel like a tougher course is more set up well for him. Hasn't been playing great. I don't think I like him in a birdie fest. I'd rather have him in tough scoring conditions, take my chances there. Nothing in the numbers I saw would lead me to play him either.
And we got some news, unless some of the chat regulars, they would never do this to me. I haven't looked on Twitter, but apparently Carlos Ortiz is gone. He withdrew, big loss, and Hunter Mahan takes his place. So they're replacing studs with studs.
Ortiz is out. He was going to be the secret play that I didn't tout and I played 100% of.
Now you can do that with Richie Warrinski, who is a guy that you actually tout all the time. He has made every cut post break. He has gained 6 strokes coming off workday with the irons. He gained 7 strokes putting at Charles Schwab. It feels like things are pretty close to coming together. 7,400 for a guy that's made every cut. I am in on Richie Warrinski this week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, what's not to like just from a ball striking standpoint, 2.7 workday, 2.7 rocket mortgage, 3.3 at Travelers. I mean, in this field for this price, those are good numbers, kind of a la Scott Stallings. You're just not going to get great numbers out of any of these guys at these prices because it's just a bad field. But yeah, I'm with you. I've liked Warrinski for a long time. If we can just get the ball striking and the putting together on the same round, him and Norlander might be like 1-2 in this field. But yeah, I like Warrinski at 7,400.
Okay, and then CH3, no. Oh God. So this is a very interesting range, and one that I think low key, Chad, if you're looking for like a dark horse winner, this could be the range. We've got Charlie Hoffman, Kyle Stanley, Sam Ryder, Wyndham Clark, Christoph Ventura, who I'm going to go on a little tangent about, Bern Wiesberger, and then it gets bad. But like, what do you make of this? I know you're a Sam Ryder guy. Anything there? Do you think Hoffman has found something off the tee? He's been a little better lately, or no? These are going to be passes.
Yeah, probably a pass for me on Hoffman. Ryder was great at the workday. It was T7. The ball striking was phenomenal, 9.1. So, that was his last time out. I wouldn't mind going there. Wyndham Clark, I hate. Stanley's just burned me so many times. I'm not going there. I want to hear this Christopher Ventura rant.
Well, I was looking at stuff blindly, which I do sometimes on Monday in particular. Like, I don't look at prices, I just look. And I was just like, you know what might be a mega mind genius play is Christoph Ventura at the Min. Like, no one obviously is going to play him. I played him a little at Rocket Mortgage, as crazy as that sounds, and he crushed off the tee. I was just like, this is great. He'll be my last min in on aggressive builds. Then I go to the pricing, and he's 7,300, which makes no sense. Then I went to the betting market. He's the same odds to win as like Bern Wiesberger. That makes negative sense. Negative sense.
You gotta be watching these Corn Ferry Tour events, man.
I don't care who. No. Just.
Well, that's why he's 7,300.
Why? What has he been doing? What could he possibly be doing over there?
Yeah, it has an 8th and a 4th on the court. I mean, it affects. This is why he's 7,300.
What's Seamus's excuse?
I'm just saying, I don't agree with it, but that is affecting the betting market, and in line, it's affecting his price. Is that he's played well on the Corn Ferry Tour, and he played well at the Rocket Mortgage, gained 3.3 with the ball striking T21. But no, I'm not getting there with him.
Bern Wiesberger is 29th in the world. Now, I get that Noren at one time was like 6th, and you can say what you want about those rankings. To me, he's I don't want to say a clear misprice, but someone I'm very interested at 7,200. He was not great last week. This seems like a pretty good spot, though. He can score. We've seen him go low in Europe many a times. Do you feel confident about him? I mean, I know you've seen him plenty.
Yeah, I mean, just from a talent standpoint, it just seems to not make any sense. You can say what you want about the world rankings and wins in Europe kind of artificially inflating some of these guys' world ranking, but a much, much better player than 7,200 in this field. And he wasn't good last week, but that was his first event since the restart. I know I don't know if it was you or Baroff said that he played some Austrian mini tour event and was great. I don't count
That's
that.
Not me.
That must have been Baroff trying to tout him to me last week. But yeah, long term, way better than any of these guys at 7,200. So wouldn't mind taking a shot at him, even off the miscut, because it was his first event back, kind of like Fleetwood this week. It's hard to expect or to know what you're going to get out of these guys. But 1 week under his belt, I like that a little bit better, even if it's a miscut.
Yeah. Oh, I don't worry about. Listen, and you couldn't find two different. The memorial to what we're going to see this week is the most unrelated situation I've ever seen. It means nothing. Did I want him to play better? And Schwab, who we'll get to in a second, yeah. But do I worry about that? No. You you've got a range here with Griot, Aaron Wise, and Ben Martin all at the same price. My goodness, is that my wheelhouse? Even though I think they're all borderline unplayable for one reason or another. If I had to choose, Chad, it would be Aaron Wise. I think he can be more aggressive off the tee. Griot loses 5 strokes putting every week. That's not an exaggeration. Ben Martin's just struggling. Anything from the low sevens before we bust into the cheapies?
I don't think there's anybody at low sevens, but your boy Bermuda Benny. This is not a Bermuda track though, but he too has been good on the Korn Ferry Tour. You got to put this in your model. You got to input these Korn Ferry Tour results into the model. 9th last week. He also had a 6th a few weeks back, but again, not Bermuda, so we're not giving him the stamp of approval.
Gotta be
only play Ben Martin on Bermuda.
Yes, that's a fact. So two guys, and these are, again, this is what we have to deal with, chat. Chase Seifert is someone that I had been on, kind of popped, and I don't know if I'm going to chase it, pun intended. And then you've got Xingzu Zhang right there, who was good last week out of nowhere. To me, that's just kind of an anomaly. Again, not going to chase it. Do you have any thoughts then? Scott Piercy also there, but not for me.
Yeah, Zhang was good last week. Piercy kind of and Hoffman feel very similar. I feel like in like a milli maker sense, if you're going to take shots, it makes more sense to take your shots with guys like Hoffman, guys like Piercy, who have a lot of scoring potential, who have a lot of upside. And you could see them being there in the mix a lot better than a guy like Sam Ryder or some of these other scrubs here. But again, not much to work off, and you just have to just hope you're getting them right. But Piercy seems underpriced.
There's going to be a lot of that this week. You're not going to find safety in like the 9K range. Never mind the sevens. Like this is not that. You're just gonna have to play some narratives. I saw Chad, and I think this is a fair point. Like, yes, you're not as punished if you can't putt here, but Griot, he can't putt to an extent that it doesn't matter how well he strikes it. So I'm sure I'll have a little, but I can't seriously commit to these guys right now at a spot. You think this could cross 20 under again in terms of a winner?
Yeah, I think it should be right around there, 20 under.
I mean, how many times can he hole out? Because it's going to be tough. Now we get into the sixes, and normally I'd say like just stay away from these guys. You don't have a choice if you go aggressive up top. You have to go here. Justin Hadley's going to be popular. I guess that's the quote-unquote obvious target, as crazy as that sounds. I kind of like Adam Schenk. Couple decent showings. Tee to green, very good. Did he catch your eye at all?
Yeah, 100% caught my eye. T39 at Workday gained 5 strokes ball striking. T30 at the Rocket Mortgage gained 4 strokes ball striking. So back-to-back, really good events. The ball striking was really, really good. Big Ten guy. I think he won on the Korn Ferry Tour in Illinois. I think he's an Illinois guy. So we're going to lump that all into like the upper Midwest and give this like a regional type of thing. So yeah, he's kind of a Big Ten home game for him. But yeah, he's played well, and he's just not a name that I don't think people are going to gravitate to unless you're like digging deep into the numbers. No one's really thinking Adam Schenk are going to see a T39 and a T30 and be all too excited about that. But the ball striking was really good. I like him. I mean, I love Hadley. I don't know how chalky he's going to be. But just first of all, the guy scores like a madman.
Yep.
Just makes, even in bad finishes, making a ton of birdies. The ball striking has been really good in all but one event. 3.9 at the Workday, 4.7 at the RBC, 5.5 at Colonial. Rocket Mortgage was the only one where he was a slight negative. But between the ball striking, the birdie making, and the fact that we like him in an easier course where you don't have to scramble as much, I really, really like him. I don't know how chalky he's going to be, but he really stuck out to me at 6,900.
again, I do wish this was Bermuda, obviously. He's more comfortable there. But other than that, he's a easy course split guy who he can outscore his placement points. And unlike what I said at the beginning, at the Memorial, where you finished allocated a ton of your total DraftKings or Superdraft or whatever site you're playing's points. Here, that's not the case. You could come in 48th here and you could outscore a guy in 15th. No problem if you have streaks and bonuses in the under 70 somehow. It can happen. So I'm with you there. It's just pretty bad down here. I mean, Keith Mitchell, people are talking about. I don't really get it. He's running a hot putter right now, but this guy, he lost 9 strokes on the approach at Workday a couple starts ago. This is what we're doing these days?
That's not good. -9. I got to look at my numbers and my records.
That's rare.
I don't think that's good.
Not the answer that I'm looking for. Question
for you.
Oh, please.
I'm playing Duffner.
Oh, that's a page out of my book. Go ahead. Right. Make a case.
I mean, poor man's Scott Stallings.
Oh, God. I don't know how. Oh, boy.
Definitely not wowing you with, like, the numbers as a whole, but just, I mean, consistently good. He gained 3.5 at Memorial, 1.1 at Workday, slight negative at Rocket Mortgage where he missed the cut, and he gained 3.3 at RBC. And, I mean, it's the same thing week in and week out. He's going to gain off the tee and on the approach. Just can't putt. But I don't know. Consistency-wise, I like it at 6,900. Just hope he doesn't even have to putt good, just not be an abomination with the putter. But the problem with him, and you pointed this out last week, he's kind of one of those like low variance bad putters where it's just you're just never getting there. And that made a lot of sense when you said it. I think there's guys like Horschel or Leishman maybe. You look at their putting and they look like a bad putter, but it's like -2, -2, -2, -2, -2, and then it's like +8 and they win or contend. And that was a really sharp and great point that you brought up last week. Duffner is just like the Hideki, like we're just going to lose 2 every single event, lose 2, lose 3, and it's just like nothing's ever there.
It really is something that, like, a guy gaining 0 strokes putting in 2 straight events is wildly different than a guy losing 8 and then gaining 8. They both average out to the same, but it is so different in who you want to target. And Duffner, unfortunately, rarely is he going to derail to the point that we see some really bad showings, but he also never carries himself with the putter, even in outlier weeks. I don't mind it, though. This is a guy that off the tee, he can hold it together, and then he can lean on the approaches. You should be fine here. All right, I got 2 guys. One guy I don't like, one guy I clearly do. Talk to me about Brandon Hagee. Another name that I've seen people throw around, mega bomber, mega putter right now. I'm not there.
Yeah, I'm not there either. I mean, he hits the ball a mile. That's great. Anytime we're talking mega putter, I just like, you might as well just count me out. Unless the mega putter comes with mega ball striking and then the guy's probably winning lots of events. Not for me. I mean, the style is good. He'll score because he can hit the ball 5 miles. But no, nothing stuck out with him for me.
Question from chat. How much weight do you put into the feature groups? Is that anything you ever look at? I do not. I do look at where guys are paired, and if it's close, sometimes like last week, I intentionally made Rahm, Finau, Sergio teams because they played together, but I didn't care if they were on the feature groups or not. I assume you don't care about that, right?
No, never. Yeah, never even thought about that, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe that's all right.
Maybe that's my mistake. I guess looking into stuff like that.
Well, I tell you, this guy's definitely not on the feature groups because they can't show this to audiences. It would cause too much damage. But Charles is slowly getting it together. He's gained, and trust me, I have an inkling. If he didn't, and this is a big if he didn't triple multiple holes on Friday, he could have slid through that cut. He's gained 2 straight off the tee. The irons before that were okay. There's not a lot to go off of, but he's 67. Like, honestly, do you really think that Ace Ventura is $600 better than him? Now, the answer to that might be yes, but I don't know about that.
You just said that a guy that's missed 4 straight cuts is slowly getting it together. So
He is.
I don't know. That's pretty egregious take on your part. I mean,
He's South African.
and I think we talked about this last week, but maybe in a slightly different context of, a hard course, a strong field. Would you rather take a no-name guy with good stats and bad pedigree, or a guy with great pedigree, great long-term form, but maybe is not playing as well? And this week, it's kind of the same thing, but slightly opposite. It's like, would you rather play Russell Knox, Charles Schwartzel, Scott Piercy, who there's really not a reason to play him, but you just know they're a much better player? Or would you rather pick a guy like Ventura or
Roger Sloan,
or Adam Schenk, who have some decent numbers, but you just know that they're not the same type of player as a guy like Piercy or Hoffman, who, one of these guys is going to get hot. They're going to be there, and everyone's going to be like, oh, why did I not play Piercy at 7K or Danny Lee at 6,700 or Schwartzel at 6,700? Problem is how do you pick? It's like, I don't really know. If the numbers aren't there, you're just kind of taking blind shots with some of these guys.
It's very it's definitely muddy waters, but that is an important thing, and that's something I've tried. I don't know. I have this theory, and I've said this before, and this could be totally wrong, but I think that if you play on the Korn Ferry Tour, you are programmed to attack pins always, because you have to shoot like 30 under every week. And for some of these guys, especially veterans of the tour, they're used to like trying to go out and shoot like a bogey-free 2 under, 3 under. And that just doesn't work at these places. That's why these guys, I don't know, they're like wired to go mega low. And if you get them at the right week, you can get crazy scoring. Whereas I just never feel like that happens with the pros. They don't make as many mistakes, but I don't know how often they're wired to attack. So I do look at like the Cam Davises, Seamus, Harry Higgs, Bronson Burgoon. There are flyers down here. You just want to be careful you don't start playing all of them, because truly they're not the best players in the world. They have a lot of serious red flags.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough week. I think it's going to be a week of like hindsight, like Monday morning quarterback, where you look at the leaderboard and it's going to look, oh, it should have been so obvious to us to play these guys. But really, I mean, there's 40 guys in this field who you could look at and say, oh, wow, Vaughn Taylor at 6,800 in this field. Like, how did I miss that? There's going to be a lot of these guys that play completely terrible too, because they're just in bad form and haven't been striking it well. So it's tough. I mean, I'm not a guy that tends to just take shots in the dark with a guy because he's a name at this price. I look at the numbers and I end up playing guys like Schenk. Is that a mistake? I don't know, but at least I can hang my hat and say, well, I can lean on he's had 2 good ball striking events, and there's something there, rather than just saying I'm going to click Piercy and pray that he plays well.
So the thing I'll say about that, because we've got a couple minutes left here, obviously you want to base it off numbers. The thing that I believe you want to ask yourself, though, is if you're going to take a blind shot, and you got to be realistic, obviously, what is the scenario if you get it right? What happens? And if you think the answer is, like, for example, and you use them all the time, say Snedeker was off no form. If you get it right, he can just win blindly. He comes out of nowhere and he wins. That to me is worth possibly exploring. If you think the best outcome is the guy comes in 17th and you're backing him blind, that's pretty tough. Like, I'd rather go back to the numbers and do what we can. So there's something to backing someone without form. You just want to make sure that the ceiling is intact, because you're drawing to certainly a less than 50% outcome. You're drawing to a 1-outer in a lot of ways. But if you connect, you got to make sure you get paid off.
Yes, very, very well put.
That's what all right, we got a couple minutes left, so now we get to the important people. Is there anybody below 6,500 that you have any interest in, or are you saying stay away?
I mean, I'm staying away. I think, just kind of more of the same. You see guys like Spawn down here who had 1 decent ball striking event and then went back to being terrible, even though he made the cut long term on him. But there really wasn't anybody in the lower sixes that I really saw anything that stuck out to me in the stats or any of the finishes. It's really bad down here. Again, more of the same names that seem underpriced for this field, but the numbers and the finishes just don't back any of that up.
Yeah, and it's what you just said. There's going to be a couple guys when we look back that we say, wow, they were sub 6,500 and they played really well. How am I supposed to know, or how is anyone supposed to know the other 35 are going to get cut? I don't know how you decipher. So will I take a flyer here or there? Maybe. And that's something, tomorrow night, 8:30, me and Jason Roslin will break down a couple of these flyers if we find one. I think most prudent decision is stay a little above this. You're getting a lot more bang for your buck when you talk about Chesson Hadley and guys like that versus, I don't know, but Robert Streb and Chris Baker and Kramer Hickok, who I looked at really closely and I still am not sure about. And then the final question here, who the hell is Angus Flanagan?
That sounded like a made-up name when I was kind of putting the field together. No clue. It's a great, Scottish name, though. I have no idea who he is or where he's. I'm assuming he's like a European amateur or something.
So what I deciphered was he is from England. He is a golden gopher, apparently.
How do I not know this?
His first name is Angus. This is the kind of stuff that we provide on this show. I won't be playing him because I don't play people that I don't know who they are. So that's where we're at. Like I said, any final thoughts from you? For me, it's a different type of week. You have to adjust. Don't base too much off Memorial. Get back in that mindset of going low.
Yeah. You can't lean too much on what happened last week because it's a completely different course. The more expensive the guys are, aside from DJ and Brooks, the guys are going to feel overpriced. You're just going to have to deal with that. I mean, it's like everyone's in the same boat. So you kind of have to get used. And that's another thing about this week is we just haven't it's been so many strong fields back to back to back to back. We just haven't seen an event like this. So it kind of feels uncomfortable making lineups. I prefer it to where it's like, man, I see 3 or 4 plays and then I'm going to have to really struggle to find other guys. That's more appealing to me than last week. I know it was a great event. It was a great field, but it's just really tough when it's like, oh, I like this lineup with Xander, but then it would look really good with Rahm, and then it would look really good with Webb, and it would really look really good with Hovland. And it's like where I just couldn't find a way to end. It was just like I could make a million lineups and they all looked great.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we talked about that last week. You can make I don't care what anyone, and listen, it worked out, especially at the top for me more than not. But if you would have told me that DJ won and Rahm shot 10 over, I would be equally as surprised. I liked Rahm and he played great, but those guys are world class. Sometimes they don't have it and you got exposed. But here it's the complete opposite. You're more doing that with the flyers where you're like, I have this lineup. It's not going to look good with anyone, but I'm going to be forced to take someone at 67. And no matter who you choose, it's going to be uncomfortable. But that's just something we have to deal with. So that's where we're at. Other than that, again, 8:30 tomorrow, we'll break it down, see what we can do for the 3M. Be prepared. Get behind the paywall. Last thing I will say, if you haven't done, check out that promo code, RESTART, half off Awesemo Plus for the month. We'd love to have you there. If you have any questions, chat. You guys have been great as always. Find us on Twitter. Find us in Slack. And we'll see you back next Tuesday, same time, same place. Good luck, everyone.